He surprised me with his height. Moment Tyler stepped through the front door once more after nearly 4 years. Is the first memory that floods my mind. He had matured. Perhaps it was simply a matter of having forgotten. Memories fade when individuals depart. How they moved, how they once brought life to a space, yet he filled it now. Strong shoulders, composed demeanor. 24 those soft brown eyes remain, yet they carry the weight of time, hinting at a deeper wisdom. He rarely offered a smile. No embrace was shared. He simply nodded at his father before shifting his gaze toward me. "Hello, Diane," he remarked. In that moment I was paralyzed. It had been ages since anyone in this house had referred to me in that way. It was perpetually Mom, even if said with a hint of reluctance, or simply her. "Hello, Tyler," said, finding my voice. I observed my husband's hand gripping his shoulder, witnessed the glimmer of duty in his gaze, a sword that emerged from the relentless effort to mend something fractured repeatedly, a bond between father and son reunited once more. At this moment he ascended to the guest room on the upper floor, claimed it would merely be a fleeting arrangement. He mentioned that he required some time to sort through everything. I extended an invitation for him to remain. I never claimed to be desperate for companionship that seemed genuine. In those initial days, a serene stillness enveloped everything. Elegant gatherings over dinner, casual conversation. One evening, just 5 days after his arrival, I wandered past the living room. The television remained silent. It screamed dark and unlit. He sat on the floor, his back resting against the couch, gazing at an old photo album. I was unaware that anyone still kept it open. "Is this you?" he inquired, gesturing toward a photograph of me in my 30s with long hair and a joyful laugh. I inclined my head in acknowledgement. "Prior to my encounter with your father, you seem changed. Am I older now?" I playfully provoked. "Well, as if you were meant to be a part of something greater." Words eluded me. Found myself perched on the edge of the He presented the album to me. Fingers brushed against one another. Was fleeting. Silence prevails. Yet that night slumber eluded me. With the dawn of a new day, he set about brewing a pot of coffee, exclusively for my own delight. "Father departed at dawn," he remarked. He didn't specify when he would return. He poured the coffee with deliberate slowness. "Place it before me. You enjoy cinnamon, don't you?" I blinked. Recall time when I was 16. My husband had always forgotten. That evening my husband lingered out, sharing drinks with a friend. I lingered in the kitchen, a book resting in my hands, though its pages remained untouched. Tyler entered the room, picked up a beer, then came to a halt. "Are you all right?" I inclined my head in acknowledgement, merely fatigued. He merely remained in place. "Have you ever experienced the sensation of being unseen?" I inquired abruptly. He remained unyielding. "Constantly," he replied. He then added with a soft, "Not when you're around, though." It was not a mere touch. It was not a It was a statement, yet a fracture formed within me. The inaugural shift, the initial silent tug of an unquenchable desire for something I understood I ought to resist, began. Inquietude, not the type that brings pleasure, a sensation that encircles your ribs, constricting gently until each breath becomes a laborious task. My husband failed to return home for dinner. Once more, no communication. There is no justification, only absence. The sword I had ceased to ponder long ago In solitude I found myself seated. In the dining room. A table awaits set. For 3. The roast chicken has succumbed to the chill of time. And then, tears streamed down my face. Quiet. It was the gentle, sorrowful weeping that escapes when you believed you had become too desensitized to experience any emotion at all. His descent from the stairs went unnoticed by me. I was unaware of his presence until the atmosphere around me changed subtly. Averted my gaze, pressing my cheek against the cold surface, seeking refuge. In the shadows, Diane, he inquired. Softly. I gently shook my head. Insignificant. I'm well enough. He was skeptical of my words, and to make matters worse, he stayed. He circled the table, lowered himself beside me, and placed a gentle hand on my wrist. Once found myself straining to hear your presence, he murmured gently. My youth, the sound of your footsteps, the sound of your voice, you were the sole presence in this house that transformed it into a true home. Then I cast my gaze upon him completely. Not a hint of a smirk was present. No sympathy, only warmth, worry, and another thing I preferred to leave unnamed. Or prompts such kindness from you towards me? Inquired. His response was so soft that I nearly missed it. Because he doesn't see you, yet I always did. In a moment that felt almost primal, his fingers entwined with mine. Simply a handhold. Only flesh against flesh. Yet it was the first occasion in more than a year that I had felt the genuine touch of another. We lingered in that moment, time stretching endlessly around us. Nothing further, only that quiet moment. Together, the sweetness that is simply too much to bear. As he finally rose to his feet, he offered no farewell for the night, gave my hand one last gentle squeeze before turning to leave. Gazed at the vacant chair opposite me, the very one that had belonged to his father, and I came to understand that it wasn't the marriage I longed for. It was the notion that someone might once more select me. A gray, languid day enveloped the house as if it had ceased to breathe altogether. My husband departed that morning on a work trip, or so he claimed, but he left me in the dark about his return. Tyler and I glided through the house, akin to whispers in the night. During dinner we were unguarded. The table remained unset. Just enjoyed some leftovers at the kitchen island, my feet lightly grazing beneath the stools. He mentioned that he had submitted an application for a position in the city, something imaginative, a secret he had kept from his father. I crave something that belongs to me, he expressed. Cast my gaze upon him and gave a subtle nod. I comprehend that more deeply than you realize. After we tidied up, I found myself doing something unusual. Asked him to join me for a movie. Lacked any semblance of romance. An old French film that captured my admiration. Monochrome, unhurried, brimming with desire. We nestled together on the couch, side by side, untouched initially. As the woman in the film shed tears, I sensed his gaze shift toward me. I cast a fleeting glance behind, his hand once more intertwined with mine. The time I held my gaze steady. In that moment I intertwined our fingers. The film reached its midpoint, the lights began to waver. The light in the room faded to a soft glow. The stillness deepened, enveloping everything in its profound embrace. I ought to head upstairs, he murmured softly. He remained still. I murmured, stay. Merely that single term. Gentle, only. Just taking shape, yet it fractured something within. He faced me, his eyes wide and filled with a questing intensity. And when he kissed me, Tentative, uncertain, it didn't feel like an error. The realization washed over me as if it were the response to an unvoiced inquiry I had long suppressed. We refrained from entering my bedroom. We lingered there on the couch. Inch of skin becomes a delicate negotiation. Gentle breaths of air. Delicate caresses, his hands tracing the contours of a woman who believed no one would ever gaze upon her in such a way again. In the aftermath, silence enveloped us. He embraced me. Warm breath whispers against my shoulder. Attuned my ears to the rhythm of his heartbeats, steady and unwavering. After what felt like an eternity, I finally drifted into a deep, uninterrupted slumber. The following morning I left the curtains undisturbed. Illumination seemed almost painfully sincere. Tyler had departed before I opened my eyes. A neatly folded note rests on the kitchen table. Coffees. I hesitated to disturb your slumber. He adorned it with a cheerful smiley face. As a young lad, as if it were not the most intricate endeavor we had ever undertaken, I carried my coffee outdoors, reclined in the garden, my bare feet nestled in the cool, inviting grass. The roses required a careful pruning. The fountain required a thorough cleaning. I found myself in need of, I was unaware. I simply required. For a fleeting instant, I envisioned confiding in another, a companion, a sibling of the female kind, an unfamiliar figure. I envisioned the words I would choose, yet the words perpetually lodged in my throat. Does one confess to an act that, while immersed in it, feels devoid of sin? That afternoon I made my way to the grocery store. As I approached the checkout, the cashier inquired, "How's your husband?" "He is doing well," I deceive. Yet, as the words escaped my lips, a sudden awareness washed over me. I had not given him a single thought throughout the day. Never. The guilt pierced through me, so intense that I almost let my purse slip from my grasp. On that evening, I prepared a meal for Tyler returned home in the late hours, later than he typically did. He appeared weary, filled with doubt. Inquired whether he had an appetite for meal. He remained silent. He lingered in the doorway, his gaze fixed on me as if he were etching the moment into his memory. At last he remarked, "I wasn't sure if today would have an odd feeling. Did it?" I inquired. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. It was only when the memory resurfaced that I realized it was necessary. We refrained from eating. We have just had conversation, reflecting on the innocence of youth concerning the realm of music, exploring the yearning for something just beyond your grasp, a desire tinged with the bittersweet sting of restriction. And then, in that fleeting moment between washing and drying the dishes, he kissed me once more. This time fear eluded me. I was not a wife. I was not a mother. I was merely a woman. And he instilled in me the belief that this was sufficient. Later that night, as he drifted into slumber beside me, I found myself gazing at my reflection in the mirror perched above the dresser. I did not appear any younger or perhaps even more exquisite, yet I appeared vibrant. In that moment, a chilling realization washed over me. This was not merely an isolated error. This marked the beginning of an irreversible journey. We ceased the charade. We ceased to carry the weight of guilt. Perhaps we simply became adept at concealing it under gentle caresses. In the laundry room, lingering looks across the dinner table, and unspoken vows that lingered in the air between. The sound of his footsteps on the stairs became an irresistible longing within me. The rhythm of my morning started to hinge on the presence of his slumbering form beside me. In that moment all was lost. A knock echoed through the silence, marking the beginning of an unexpected turn of events, not at our entrance but within my soul. A notification appeared on my husband's phone. I was not meant to witness it, yet I did. Correspondence from a woman named Karen. The note said, "I missed your presence last night. Shall we meet at the same time on Friday?" My stomach churned. I had not merely betrayed a man who held love for me. I had betrayed a man who had long since ceased to love me. The genuine surprise Tyler was aware. He had been aware for years. In the driveway the following night he spoke to me, his voice barely above a whisper. Caught sight of him alongside her twice. Is the reason I ceased returning home. Gazed at him, utterly astonished. Didn't you share this with me? I wanted you to be here because you truly wanted to be, not out of obligation. Everything unraveled swiftly from that moment onward. In our room, my husband discovered Tyler's hoodie. He refrained from inquiring. He gazed at me with an expression I had never encountered in his eyes. Revulsion. You were meant to rise above this, he remarked. I held back my tears. I found myself uncertain of his. That weekend Tyler packed his belongings and left. He expressed a desire for some distance. He expressed a desire to unravel the significance of it. I inquired, "Shall I ever behold you once more?" He remained silent. He embraced me and he kissed my forehead, as if bidding farewell to a cherished recollection. Half a year has passed. The house has fallen into a stillness. The garden has become a wild tangle of growth. On certain evenings I find myself brewing coffee for two. Certain evenings I find myself pondering whether I was merely a diversion for him, a captivating error. Yet I find myself recalling his hands, his eyes, the way he gazed at me as if I were the sole authentic presence in his universe. My marriage has slipped away from me. The version of myself that I once feigned has slipped away from me. Yet perhaps, just perhaps, I discovered something new. A woman I believed had vanished long ago, and even if she fades from the sight of the world, she remains vivid in my memory.